What's up, trade crew? Welcome back to HVAC R&D, hosted by Rhydon Atzenhofer. I am stoked to have a fresh face to the HVAC world joining me tonight, and I am curious as to the insight and discussion to come. So let's get it going. Yeah, come on. This episode of HVAC R&D is brought to you by the show's newest vendor hub partner, Global The Source. If you're looking for training on any and all of their products, from their industry-changing AMRAD Turbo series of capacitors to their Dytech surge protection and voltage monitoring, you can click the link in the HVAC R&D vendor hub and request training with your local or regional sales rep. This episode of HVAC R&D is also sponsored by BetterHelp. All listeners of the HVAC R&D podcast can take advantage of 10% off their first month of online mental health services with BetterHelp just by visiting the HVAC R&D vendor hub, clicking on the BetterHelp link to have discount code HVAC R&D automatically applied to their application. Fill out your personal information and preferences, and you can be matched with a therapist to fit your timeline and lifestyle within 24 to 48 hours. It's hot out there, the stress levels are running high from the warehouse to the ownership, and all of us have to remember to take time to take care of ourselves, as well as all of your family and customers. This show is also looking for the next HVAC R&D powered by sponsor. If you're interested, please reach out via the contact link on hvacrnd.com or drop me a line at hvacrnd@gmail.com and I'll send you the 2024 press kit, which has just been updated for quarter 2. I'm also grateful to have been part of the 2024 AHR workforce development team that has been working with Chicago's Prosser Career Academy and High School, a local high school with a dedicated HVAC program helping to bring the next group of tradespeople to the industry. A massive thanks to Bosch Home Comfort, Insight Partners, Hobbs Associates, and the Air Control Concepts family of brands, as well as the Moore Sales Corporation for their support. I could not be happier to have such dedicated partners on board for this project, and if you're interested in helping the school at any time in the future, please reach out because these kids need your help. If it's your first time listening to the show, I welcome you. Thank you for taking the time to give me a shot. I am based in North Carolina, and the show is focused on research and development within the trades. The main objective is the pursuit of building a better, more knowledgeable community of HVAC professionals and fellow trade people by learning from the past and embracing new advances in the industry to help us all be better for the future. If you're not following the show online, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at hvac.rnd. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Tradehounds, and Facebook as the HVAC R&D podcast. And if you're not listening to every week's shows, and you may have just stumbled upon us across your favorite podcasting platform, whether it be Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, or any of about 20 other streaming platforms, please follow, like, and rate the show. Leave me a review. Share me with your trade crew. If you want to work with me, you know how to do that. And make sure to go check out the website and the swag shop and join the mailing list at the bottom of the page. But now, what you're all waiting for. Just who is on the show this week? Tonight, I get to welcome a new face of the HVAC world. She recently joined the ranks of one of the show's best and long-term partners in Global The Source. So please welcome the newest regional sales executive of the Carolinas, Miss Jesseca Turner.
Thank you for having me, Rhydon. I feel very special. So thank you so much.
I'm glad I could bestow this honor upon you, so you feel so delighted.
I've only been stalking you a little bit and saying man, I wish if only I had a podcast I could be on. Maybe one. Do you know one that I could be on?
Yeah,
I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for spending some time with us. Well, spending some time with us. I'm used to saying us. Spending some time together, you and I.
Your dogs.
That's
You and
right.
your dogs.
All three of them. You heard that here. So I know you know how this show works. Typically, the guest announces their beverage first. I know you brought something special to the show, so what you got?
I did, and let me just tell you this. I was recently in Pittsburgh. I went up there. My family's from there. That's where I'm from, born and raised. And I went up to Pittsburgh for the weekend for a bachelorette party. We actually were going to the Pittsburgh Steelers training camp. So that was what we were doing for the bachelorette party, which was exciting enough. But I was up there and I said, you know what? I'm gonna bring a beer back, just in the spirit of this. And I grabbed some Icy Light, but I couldn't carry it on the plane, of course, so I had to check it. And I never check a bag. But this was a special occasion. I literally checked my bag for this Icy Light, Rhydon. So I guess, have you ever had an Icy Light?
No, I have not.
So
I have not had a Pittsburgh specialty beer.
You have not. So Icy Light actually stands for Iron City Light. I can't touch the Iron City, but the Icy Light, I've definitely drank a few in my life. So, yes, Icy Light. It's 95 calories and 28 carbs. It's basically like water, but you know, it can put some hair on your chest.
That's
I quit
what I'm
drinking
talking
it.
about.
What about you? What do you got?
All right, so I have got an Outlaw.
Oh.
Which it's a newer one out there. I won't dig through the whole thing on this one. I've done it on another show that's not out yet. But it is an excellent new selection that is very new to the Carolinas. If you guys listen to country music and you're Hardy fans, this is, I think, pretty much his beer. He has been promoting it like crazy. And they are correct. It's good and easy to drink, and it doesn't hurt the wallet that bad. It was, I think, $16.99 a case at the Harris Teeter, so I'll take it.
Wow.
But yeah,
that is a good bargain. But does it put hair on your chest? That's the question.
If you drink enough. I think the other thing that's interesting, I know when we were doing the show before the show, catching up a little bit, we were talking about the fact that I was a history major and always loved little bits and pieces of history. So apparently the brewery that brews this beer is 153 years old, something like that.
Wow.
But the guts of the brewery were destroyed during a flood in Denver maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So this beer coming out is kind of like them bringing the old brewery back to life, from what I understand. So it's pretty cool.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, I mean, Icy Light does have a history, with Pittsburgh. I mean, anyone from Pittsburgh, you say, oh yeah, we're drinking Icy Light, we're drinking Iron City. It definitely has its place. Nothing like that, nothing with a dam, I don't think, but it's a pretty good beer.
So normally you're not drinking a beverage, you are carrying around your water jug, staying hydrated.
Yes.
I did get a chance to catch Mark's new water jug today. If anyone doesn't know who I'm talking about, Mr. Mark Rickberg, who is Jessica's boss at Global The Source, he was on, oh gosh, what was the episode number for him? I know it was Video Killed the Radio Star was the name of the show. And we've had several different past and present global folks on the show. Your company has always been there to support R&D from the beginning to even now. So I'm always happy to have one of your team on the show with me. But
absolutely,
I am ready for the moment that Mark has to carry around his 5-gallon water jug in front of me.
Can you believe him?
I can, actually.
He's a mess. He is a full-blown mess. I saw him, that video this morning, and he said, I don't usually do this. That jug is out of control. And he even did my little sign-off, too. What a good sport.
I know, right?
I mean, what a good sport. He is a mess. But truly, you better stay hydrated. This is serious. I told him it was a serious business, and he made a complete joke of it.
That's Mark. That's what he's there for.
That was awesome.
So the last time you and I got together was during May when Insight was having our tent sale up in Mooresville. I know you've swung through the branch and done a little bit of training with Travis and Eric on the counter over there. But what you been up to since then, the last couple of months, as you started getting into your new role?
Yeah, I mean, I just been out here slanging HVAC. It's been a lot of traveling. So I do cover North Carolina and South Carolina, so a lot of traveling, but really just getting around and introducing myself to people and learning about them, and just really getting my feet wet, as they would say. But it's been almost 3 months now. I still feel, I always find myself saying, I feel like I don't know anything. And, I probably don't in the grand scheme of things right now. But it's been a good time. It's been a good time. And I kind of, I credit you guys just the beginning. That was I think that was like my first week when I came. It was,
pretty sure it was.
Way. Yeah. And so that was like
you were rather green.
That was my kickoff. That was my coming out party, I guess. So, but yeah, I just been just doing a lot of traveling, getting around to the branches, meeting people, learning as much as I can. How about you?
About the same. As we've kind of rehired and gotten some more people in place, I'm getting to spend a bit more time in front of customers again, which is always great. And there's a lot of things that are happening with Insight, air control concepts. I know. I think I've talked about it on the show, but I can't remember. I know there's a lot of people in the Carolinas that know a company named Faulkner Haynes, which is another commercial manufacturer's rep firm that Insight purchased about a month ago. We announced that. So we are merging into one company throughout the Carolinas over the rest of the year. I'm not sure how it's all going to shake out. I'm excited for it because it brings additional product to us. It brings additional resources, but until we kind of know how it's all going to work together, we don't know all the details or ins and outs yet. And
yeah, that's exciting thoe. You're going to be busy. You're going to be learning a lot of things, but that's kind of what makes it go around.
I will say there is definitely always something to learn where I am.
There is.
Granted, there's always something to learn everywhere you are, but this place, at the rate we're growing and things are changing, you're constantly learning.
No, it's for sure. I find myself saying that. I keep saying, oh, I feel like I don't know a lot. I feel like I don't know anything. I've only been doing it this long. And almost every time I say that, whenever I'm speaking to someone who's been doing it for a long time, they will always say to me, I've been doing it for X amount of time and I'm still learning. And that's, I appreciate it. And it also just goes to show that, it's true. You are always learning. Things are always moving. There's always something new to be excited about. So I hear that a lot.
Yeah, and it's true. And, that's one of the, the R&D aspect of this show was, we have to constantly be seeing what's happening because, hashtag evolve or dissolve.
Yeah.
There's always something that's going to change. And, we've seen more changes in this industry really in the last 10 years than you probably saw the 20 years before it. It's crazy. And there's still so much more that's coming to change.
Yeah. And I think that's, it's definitely exciting. I mean, it certainly can present its, own challenges. But I think it keeps you, I don't know, it kind of just keeps you always striving for more or on your toes or however whatever you want to say. I was chatting with a gentleman yesterday. He said he was with the company for 35 years and he was in HVAC a little bit longer than that. And so I asked him, do you think that do you feel like you know everything, or do you feel like you've kind of learned it all? And he said, absolutely not. I mean, I have to be aware of what's new, what's coming out. I can't rely on what I learned in the past, or I can't stay relevant in the field. And I thought that was so lovely to hear that. And this man is, 80 some years old. And so I just thought that was a great perspective.
That's quite literally my own father. Cajun Joe, as everyone knows him on the show. No, I don't think it was, but well, I know it said you were at Ari Michael. Depends which one you were at.
No, it wasn't Ari Michael, but
yeah, so my dad, Cajun Joe, as everyone knows him on the show, his episode was 65. I need to do another one with him. He has more stories than you can imagine. He's 84.
Oh, you
still
have to.
still runs his business. HVAC was his second career, but he's ran help air conditioning for 47 years. Still gets up, goes to work every day. He wouldn't know what to do if he didn't. And he's also, if we have a training class, he sits in the front row and he will absolutely light up that trainer the whole time.
I love it.
So that's just how he is. So we know you're from Pittsburgh. We know you and your lady friends are suckers for big guys in tight pants. So, tell me a little bit about, your background and your experience and kind of where you started in sales in general, and we'll kind of walk into how you got to HVAC.
Yeah. It's funny. I've done a lot of things in, for a career in my past. And as we're speaking about older people, at one point I actually taught aerobics to senior citizens. So if that's, just, it's a random thing, but I joke about that. But I think it speaks to my interest in people and being able to get along well with people and see people for who they are, different ages, different whoever, right? Different people. So I think, you're in sales, but I think sales really is about people, right? Relationships.
It's completely about people and relationships.
Yeah. And so I think it started a long, long time ago, but I'm not going to go back that far, but I just kind of mentioned that because I do think it's relevant. My really getting into sales started, I was an office manager actually for a satellite office for Electrolux. And I was office manager, I sat up front and greeted people and did a bunch of stuff around the office. And eventually the team there, it was just this team full of guys. They were like, I was like, I'm bored, guys. Like, give me something to do. And they started giving me things to do that were sales related. And eventually I was doing more and more and more. And then they ended up hiring me to work with Electrolux, doing sales support. And eventually I made my way up to category management. So I was dabbling here and there, but I was never really the primary, account manager. Mm-hmm. At that time, they really wanted the people in those positions to have a bachelor's degree, and I didn't at that time. So that was something that kind of I just put on hold for a moment. But then a position opened up out in Utah.
Where is this Utah anyway?
Yeah, what's that?
Every time I hear someone say Utah, I can't stop hearing the God, what was she? It was one of the supporting actresses in Wild Wild West. And there's a scene where they're talking about Utah. And I think she's supposed to be European, like Eastern Bloc or something. And she's like, Utah, where is this Utah anyway? And every time I hear someone say it, I can't not hear that in my head. It doesn't matter how serious the conversation is. It's just there.
Oh my God. Well, yeah. I've never seen that.
I apologize.
Now I'm not going to be
continuing your career and advancing to Utah. Go.
Well, I ended up moving to Utah, and that's where I got into outside sales, like field sales. So I was, covering Utah and Idaho, and calling on national accounts, Lowe's, Home Depot, things like that. And that's kind of where my love, I think, of being out in the field. We mentioned again earlier, just sitting in an office is not really for me, I don't think. I enjoy being out with people. I enjoy kind of having those interactions and then going back and, cranking some tunes or something in my car. But I did that for a while and then moved back here to North Carolina. And I started working for a company selling secondary financing. But again, it was outside sales. It was customer relationship building, things like that. So did that for 5 years.
Now, what kind of financing was it? Was it for a specific type of loan or specific industry, or is it just whatever you could find?
Yeah, no, it was. So like, say if you were going to go into like a Rooms to Go or Ashley Furniture store, and you and your wife wanted to buy some furniture, and you wanted to finance it, so you would of course apply for financing, and if you had less than perfect credit, if you will, we might be one of the companies that would offer the financing. So my role was to go into the furniture stores, retailers, and train them, sell the product, give them all the support they needed to provide the services to customers as they came in, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, because that's similar to different manufacturers partner with different companies. I know brand I used to sell was partnered with Synchrony, so we had a rep that would come out and teach us all those different things and all of that. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about there.
It's exactly right. I actually know, I worked with Synchrony. I mean, we worked, we'd be at trade shows and things like that together. So yeah, I knew some of those people as well.
Did you know Don?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, everybody knows Don.
Yeah. Was it Don Fuquay, I think, was our rep forever.
Yeah, I mean, I joke, but we probably worked together at some point. But yeah, that's exactly what it was. So, from there, I did that for 5 years, and then some of my friends that I work with at Electrolux, they were all working at LG, and they said, we need someone in this role who would be great. And they threw my name in the ring, and then I ended up there. So I don't remember what you asked me, right? And this is what happens. This is what happens when it's this late at night.
And I'm
Grandma's tired.
Grandma's tired and making her drink. Now, there's a funny story. You want me to tell you a good grandma story?
Yeah, please.
I think I've told this on the show, but I can't remember. So, my wife and I constantly joke about my alcohol tolerance, which
is it
now if I start, well, it seems pretty good, but I know some Canadians that could probably drink me under the table, so I won't boast too much.
I mean, if I was drinking right now, I could probably hang, and I don't know if I should be proud of that, but.
So, we talked again, show before the show, we had a discussion about history and appreciating things. So my grandmother was extremely intelligent. She was the first licensed female pharmacist in the state of North Carolina. She ran our family's drugstore for many, many, many years until she retired. But in some ways, there was some common sense lacking from time to time, which is funny because it's usually the smartest people that are extremely book smart that have a little bit of a dip in common sense sometimes. So I used to go and stay with my grandma when I was 4, 5, 6. My mom was a school teacher, so sometimes if she went to run errands, I would ride the bus to my grandma's house. And, in the afternoon, we'd go out back on her little concrete steps beside her back porch, and we would share these juice drinks. Well, I didn't know this until later in life. But come to find out, these awesome little juice drinks that my grandma and I split a 4-pack of every day were Seagrams. So they were like, it was like the Seagram's Fuzzy Navel or the Margarita or whatever different one it was. And, and it's like, Grandma, I was like, which if she heard me tell her or say that I was calling her Grandma, she'd probably roll over in her grave. She hated being called Grandma. She's like, call me Mary Alice. But every day I would go to Grandma's house and throw down on the back porch, from like 5 to 8, having a good old time. Granny. That was it.
That's amazing.
And I remember Mom showed up one day, and I don't remember them fighting, but I remember her telling me about it. She said, I remember walking out there and she said, Mama, do you realize what you're giving my son?
Did she realize?
No, she had no clue. And I'm like, how did you not? At my age now, I'm like, how did you not know? It was in the booze section.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't get it without passing, the wine and the beer. It was.
I don't know. I think she wanted a drinking partner.
I think she wanted a drinking partner, and she was like, why not? He's little, it'll work out.
See, that's the difference between your grandma and my grandma. My grandma probably would have given it to me knowing, but I don't know. I think
I might have too. I mean, pharmacist. I mean, maybe she was just trying to set me up for sales later in life. Maybe that was it. She knew what I didn't know.
But wait, why'd you say Seagrams? I had a flashback.
Because that's what it was. It was like
I remember. That's like how you started. Yeah, you started on the Seagrams. I mean, I started when I was probably like too young, but you started when you were a child. And I think that's more concerning.
I remember sneaking Cajun Joe's Wild Turkey when it was me and the buddies at like 14,
probably
15,
9.
16. No, I couldn't have reached it then. I would have had to bust out a stool and somebody would have caught me.
Man,
but yeah,
that's
so
she
Smarty
knew, I
Pants
think.
Grandma
Yeah,
threw down with the grandkid. So yeah, we had a good old time.
I love it.
So back to the back to
Back
the
to
rat
that story
killing.
I was telling you about sales. That was yours
Yeah.
was way better.
So yeah, tell me about as you get into LG, you said, what is it, LG Electronics. Now, did you deal with like kitchen appliance electronics or like computer electronics and TVs and stuff like that, or what did you
Yeah,
what did
yeah,
you
it
rep and
was.
what did you sell?
Yeah, it was home appliances. So it was no TVs, but it was like, washers, dryers, refrigeration. Yep, exactly. The kitchen. So major appliances.
Gotcha.
Yep. And I was key account manager for some of the regional accounts here in North Carolina and Virginia. And it was exciting. That was an exciting job. LG has some pretty fantastic products. So I learned a lot there too. Because again, I was with Electrolux, so I certainly had a little bit of a background, but I had taken some time in between. I mean, you never really leave, right? It's like when you're in an industry, and then you'll take a break, but you're always
It
a
pulls you
little
back.
bit in, right? Like I would walk into people's house and look at their kitchen. Like the first thing I would do would be look at their appliances. It's a part of you. I think you could probably relate to that in some
Well,
ways.
and now you drive down the road and you're like, I wonder if there's a global capacitor in that outdoor unit.
Yes.
It looks like it
yes.
could use one.
Yeah.
Someone call a contractor.
It's so funny.
Yeah. And now Kristen joins in with me now. She used to be like, really? Seriously? And now she just has fun back with it. She's like, oh, did you see that one? Did you see that one?
See? Yeah, like it rubs off on you, right? It's a part of it. It's a part
Yep.
of it, becomes a part of you, for sure.
So now, did you call on like builders, or did you call on appliance stores like Best Buy, Lowe's, Home Depot, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, I did call on national accounts. Like Lowe's, Home Depot would be considered national, but I called on regional accounts. So like
Gotcha.
Queen City, things are
Yeah.
regionally here. Yeah. But
And then,
in my prior roles, whenever I was out in Utah, I called on national accounts. So I would go into Lowe's, Home Depots, things like that. That's where I was doing the outside field sales. So I had exposure to all different accounts. But whenever I worked for LG, I was the key account manager. So I mean, I really ran my own business. I mean, you really
do.
have the flexibility, to do whatever you want, which is good, bad, and ugly, right? But that was exciting because that was a new opportunity for me.
Well, and like you said, that's the good, bad, and the ugly of sales, especially when you're in a position where quote unquote empowered to deliver, but you have to have the self-discipline to use the power that you have to go deliver.
100%. Yeah.
And it's I've seen people that were amazing, in the store on the counter doing different things, and they moved to sales, and they can't handle this. As weird as it sounds, they can't handle the freedom because they don't have the self-discipline to do the little things they have to do.
Yeah, or the process. Yeah, you're right. Or the day-to-day, it just doesn't fit.
And when I got into sales on the HVAC side, 15 years ago, it takes time to develop your process. And I know right now you're in the position where you have a sales process that, in one way or another has translated bits and pieces of it. I'd say 50 to 75% of anyone's sales process will transfer to a different industry. But right now you've probably figured out what 75% has transitioned, and now you're trying to figure out the other 25% of it to put the rest of it together and make it sync.
Absolutely. But that feels like such a big disconnect too, though, at times, right? Like
It is.
You ever have the I guess it's normal for you to have days where you're like, yeah, man, I'm on fire today. You have those days where you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm on fire. And then there's days where you're like, something's like, what's missing here? And I guess that's what keeps it exciting too. But yeah, I think that's fair to say that you absolutely can bring a sales process, kind of how you work, if you will, to a new position, but then you have to figure out how everybody else is working, right?
Yep. And you've kind of got to learn, even though you don't always like know who all of your sales competition is by name or who the sales reps are. But you see the business cards, you see the other things that people buy. So you start, you learn kind of types of, I guess, situations they're accustomed to. And that's how you kind of attune what you do customer to customer. Because,
absolutely.
and that's another one, I think 75% of your sales process transitions to every single customer, but every single customer is different and you have to approach them and treat them differently. And it sounds salesy to say things like that,
but it's important.
That's right. And you have to be one-on-one.
Yeah. It's what makes you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. It's what makes you who you are, and it's what makes that relationship what it is.
Absolutely. And I think it's really an indicator and a big difference of kind of what your sales style is, right? Because you have to learn, of course, the product. You have to kind of learn, just like you said, all those different aspects. Who are these relationships? Who are these people? But it's also then, once you have that information, how do you approach it? How do you approach it with that information, right? Because that's
correct.
I don't know. I think that's, I don't want to say make or break, but for some people, they are going to be more open to you than others, right? It's just, it's your sales style, I guess.
Yep. So talking about sales style and things transitioning, most of your sales career was in consumer electronics. What really attracted you to the HVAC industry and kind of what excited you about taking a job at Global besides, Mark's glowing personality?
Well, actually, it was the glowing personalities. Dickie, Allison, Lindsay, I met, so I'll back up. So HVAC, I definitely didn't go into it thinking, you know what, this is an industry I really want to get into. I'd be lying if I said that. But I definitely said, this is an industry that I don't really know anything about, right? I was looking for a change, and I thought, well, you know what, this will be it, right? You really don't know anything about it. But I applied to the job because it had a lot of the aspects that I did enjoy, right? So I knew I'd be in sales. I knew I'd be outside. I'd be meeting with people. And when I interviewed, they were just no BS.
Yep.
They were just kind of like, here's the interview. Tell us about yourself. Yeah, we would like to have you. Let's just extend this offer to you and let's get it going. And I'm like, what? Shouldn't it be a little bit harder? It just felt easy. It felt right. Not to be woo woo about it, but I was excited, and I'd taken some time off from in between my role with LG and Global just to figure out what do I want to do. I really didn't want to jump into something, and so I don't know. It just felt right to me, and that was it. So it wasn't so much like this HVAC. This is so sexy. I want to do this. It was just, I really wanted it to feel right. I wanted the company I was with to feel right. I wanted to feel like I fit well. I didn't want that break that I took to be for nothing, if that makes sense. So
no, it makes perfect sense.
And you met Mark. I didn't get to meet Mark on my interview, but I mean, he fits the vibe that Global has. They want to win. They care about their product. They care about their people, but they also want you. I feel supported. I feel like I'm able to be who I am in that role. And I think that's, as we get, I don't want to say just as we get older, but just as we live our lives, I think that becomes more important, at least for me.
And I'll be honest, if I were to go into the manufacturing or true rep world, Mark is one of the few people I would love to go to work for.
That is awesome.
So let's see, we had, hopefully I'm not opening old wounds, but we had Ashley on the show years ago when she was still an account executive and doing marketing, and then we had Katie on the show, which I know Katie has moved on, but I wish her the best. Love her to death. She was so good to me.
Absolutely.
But when I was in Texas in October of 22 for training with my previous manufacturer, and Mark and Katie met me for dinner. So that was the first time I actually got to meet them, because I was staying on the north side of Dallas, I think, if I can remember correctly. They came out, took me to dinner, wouldn't let me buy dinner. I tried. So thank you, Global, for dinner years ago. But no, I had a great time with Mark and Katie, and anytime she was up here or he was up here, I've always seen them since. And then he came on the show, had a great time with him, and it just kind of that really solidified me always wanting to be a supporter of you guys, and hopefully vice versa.
Yeah,
Mark's
absolutely.
great.
Absolutely. I mean, and I definitely, I don't want to speak for Mark, but I know that he thinks highly of you too, obviously. I told him I was going to come on the podcast, and I knew that he and some other people would come before me, and he's like, absolutely, he's excited. And it's, you understand then what I'm saying, right? It's just,
Oh yeah, exactly. It's
a feeling, and it's I don't know. It's just, they're a good group of people, and I don't get to work directly with my team. We are going to have a sales meeting. We're all going to get to actually meet. But there's just an energy that I think that they have, and that's what I was looking for, to be honest, at this time in my life. And so it felt good, and here we are.
So what would you say has been your biggest learning curve moving over here? You obviously have an understanding of electronics and things of that nature, but it's a little bit different, kind of learning components and where they fit in this entire plethora of things.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different little things that, when I sell a job for a retrofit, there's still most of the time 15 to 25 line items. If I'm selling a rough end, it's, some cases 100 line items on a ticket. So there's so many different little ins and outs and bits and pieces. So, would you say maybe some of that was kind of a learning curve, just
it's
seeing
still
how much you had to figure out what goes with what?
It is. There's still, if I'm honest, there's moments, sometimes I'll be, in a branch, and I'll hear somebody just talking about something, and I'll understand maybe 5 of the things they're saying. And I'll get a little overwhelmed and think, what am I doing? I don't know what they said. And then I'll just have a candid conversation with, one of the guys at the branch, like, should I know that? They're like, not really. You don't really need to know that necessarily right now. And they'll kind of bring me down, calm me down a little bit. I mean, I'm being, exaggerating here, but there's a lot to learn. And I've also learned that there's, one thing could also be called 5 different things.
That's, hands down, which there's been multiple shows where we've made jokes about how many different names we could find for a certain component. Yeah. So yeah, you're completely on point. And then region by region, it can be different. Yeah. County by county, it can be different. It's insane.
Yeah. So it's a wild, it is wild out here. And it's intimidating. Let me be very clear. I don't think that, I would be lying if I said it's not a little bit intimidating at times, but I also just have to take a step back and remember what we said earlier is like, you will always have something to learn. And people, in a lot of cases, they're willing to help you. They're willing to, chat with you. I've been fortunate that people, just today I went into an RE Michael, and they're like, yeah, come back here. We'll show you this system. And they, opened it up, and this is, see right there, that doesn't take a capacitor. And, I'm getting like my own little education. And so I feel very grateful. But it's definitely, the learning curve has really truly just been that, while I was at LG, I've had some exposure to refrigeration. I understood how things worked. This is a completely different level. This is the nitty gritty. Yep. So yeah, that has been the biggest shift. And like you said, some of it translates, certainly. The systems, the sales part of it, the people part of it, I can work with that, but man, it's a lot to learn. It really is. So I'll let you know. Ask me that in a year if I'm. Ask me that in a year.
And we'll have to do a follow up.
Yes.
1 year anniversary.
I would love that.
So in the past, you called on national accounts, regional accounts. On this side of where you are now, you have a little bit different relationship, because in a lot of cases you're calling on distributors, but you're also calling directly to the contractor, which I don't know if you were doing that before with, if you were trying to get, new construction contractors to put in your products or not
No.
before. So what strategies, have you kind of had to modify or use to build relationships really more with a true, B2B, like direct to contractor conversation that you may or may not have had in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I definitely hear a lot more swear words, since I've been. I'm totally kidding.
HVAC is a 4-letter word, so we are well prepared. It's an acronym, but
no,
you know what I meant.
Yeah. So I know what you mean. No, I've definitely had to adjust a little bit, but I think, going back to what we said, I think I have an ability to kind of get on people's level. Not everybody's, of course, but I try to just listen. I try to understand kind of where they're coming from, but it has been different because I will say this. Everyone, just like there's different names for different parts, people's attitude and their approach to business is different too, I've learned, right? So
yep.
Some people see this situation and here's how they would handle it, and some people see it completely different. And I've had to learn that by speaking to the contractors and getting, kind of seeing where they fit in that scenario. And then I have to adjust how I speak to them about things, right? Or kind of what the audience is. I don't know if that's kind of where you're looking for, but it's different.
No, it's true. It's definitely different.
Yeah, I mean, and these people are, a lot of these people, they have their hands in it. They're doing this work. And so, I ask a lot of questions and I just try to see where they're coming from, but it's definitely different in that respect. Contractors are different, regions are different. Just like we said, there is not a one size fits all situation. No,
definitely not. And how has it been now? Now that you're doing kind of product training and stuff like that, and we'll start kind of rolling into product discussion, but in the past, were you doing any kind of training with, like, this is the LG this, and this is what it does, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I was. Yeah,
but was it technical, or was it just, this is it, this is what it does, to try to teach a guy how to sell it to the homeowner, when now you're in a position where you're either trying to teach distributor to sell it to contractor, and you're with contractor plus homeowner, but you're teaching them how to sell it direct to the homeowner in the home as opposed to in the store doing whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I had definitely some of that. Like, for example, if we were talking about a washing machine, I would go into the stores and I would teach their sales associates how to sell the product to the consumer. It's still a little bit different, again, excuse me, like we said, but I might talk about how, like, the different wash cycles, how they get there, what kind of motor it is, but it was definitely not as technical as what I would be doing here. But yeah, that's the part of, I always enjoyed that part of the job though too, being in sales, but being with people, going in, teaching them how things work. So some of that carries over into this role, I think, definitely. But I do have to change. I do find myself having to change my delivery probably more, again, to fit those different situations.
Well, and that's what, we reiterate that from earlier, and I've said it on shows in the past where you talk about it as a salesperson. In some ways, you're kind of a chameleon, which sounds slimier than it's meant to, in a way.
Yeah, no, I say that a lot.
But in a lot of ways, you kind of have to be, because, everyone you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis has such a different background that you relate to them on a different level than you did someone else.
100%. And I think that is what, if you're able to do that in a sales role, that's what makes you successful. I mean, and I see where I understand what you're saying. It seems like it's a slimy thing, but it's not. It's really just, it's being a good teacher, right? It's like, yes. when we talked earlier about a teacher that has influenced you, and really, it's because you were able to connect with them. And so that's where that's how I like to think about it.
It's funny you say that. Trying to think the right way to transition this, but talking about having I guess it would be considered having the heart of a teacher when you're in a sales role.
Yeah.
Because then that's one of the things that truly can set you apart. Growing up in this industry, I saw salespeople from every single distributor, half the manufacturers, so on and so forth. And I hate to say it, most of them were terrible. There were a lot of people that weren't great sales reps that Dad just kind of got stuck dealing with because there wasn't much of a choice. And when I made the decision to go to HVAC, part of it was I wanted to go be the sales guy I never had, or that my dad didn't have, that didn't really help us add value to the business. He was just there to, literally just there to sell you something. And yes, when I deal with customers, I want to sell them something because that's how I make a living. 100%. But I don't want to go into someone's office only they're concerned about a PO, because then you're not genuine and you're not real. And I've seen so much of that just not go over well. And I didn't want to be that guy.
No.
So, and I feel you kind of have that same mentality. So can you share maybe an example of how you've kind of leveraged those past experiences to maybe solve or seize an opportunity now that you're in your new role in the last couple months?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you just said that was really well said. And I think maybe it's not one particular opportunity. I'll have to think about that. But that notion that what you just talked about is that I think you can be a salesperson. You can go in with the intention to make money. That's what we're all here to do. I mean, we are. It's a job. But I don't think that means that you can't be yourself and care about what you do. I don't think it needs to be separate all the time. And
no, it doesn't.
And I mean, I joke sometimes. If people who have met me out there, I probably said this to them a couple of times, is I don't know that I'm always the best salesperson, because sometimes I'm a little bit too maybe vulnerable or honest, and that doesn't mean that you're not honest if you're
nope. I was going to say exactly that. Sometimes you're
but
honest to a fault, because that's just who you are.
Yeah. But I think that I've been in both positions. I've been in, well, not both, but in several positions. But I've been in a position where I made a lot of money, and it didn't feel as good to me as whenever I walked away from a situation and they said, "We're really going to miss you," and I knew it was true. You know, and I'm not saying that to be cheesy, but
no, it's the truth of the matter.
It's the truth of the matter.
I completely understand.
Yeah, I mean, I joke that one of my past roles, someone said, they're like, we didn't really like your product, but we really liked you, and I just thought that was funny, because because it was, again, I wanted them to buy our product 100%. That was my goal, and that was my goal every day when I woke up. That's what I signed up to do, and that was what I was going to do. But I can only do it from an honest place. I can only do it from, where I sit and who I am. And so I guess, like, to answer your question, is that I don't know that it was one particular experience, but I believe that I have been successful in my roles. Have I been the top selling salesperson? Have I been, always the person that knows the most about everything? No, I haven't. But I believe I can walk away from each of those situations and say that, like, I put my heart into it, and when I didn't feel like my heart was into it, that's when I left. If that makes sense.
I know exactly what you mean.
So I know that's a little.
No, it's true. It's salesperson to salesperson. It's an honest conversation. That's the kind of stuff I want this show to have, because I'm guilty of the same thing. I've my whole life, but especially my whole sales career, I wear my heart on my sleeve, whether I'm supposed to or not, because it's just who I am. And I've had customers that have been best friends for 10 years, and then I've had ones that were best friends that drop you like a hot rock. It's, so I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
But if you're not being personal and empathetic and on all those things with people, it's to me, it's not fun. If I can't be me, then why am I even doing this job?
That's right. And also, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I'm one of those people that if I can't be myself and go out, just let me go be me and show you what I can do. If it's not working, then let's have a conversation. But trust me that I'm gonna go kill it for you and let me go to work.
I love it. Yep, that's exactly what I'm saying. And on top of that, Rhydon, I would say, if you find yourself in a position where, and again, I do believe that we have control of our own emotions, our own, we make a choice every day to wake up and say, I'm going to feel good. I'm going to not let this bother me. I do believe in that. But at some point, if you're in a position where you're feeling like you're not able to wake up and have that same heart, you're in a situation where it is impacting you more than you can control, then sometimes that is a time for you to exit. So it's there's a balance between being a go-getter and going after the sale and achieving the goal, and also maintaining who you are and your heart. And so
absolutely,
it's a balance. And I will say this, I mean, people, I'm just now meeting people. Some people I've been in their branch a couple of times, they've seen me twice, and I don't expect them to see what you and I are talking about right now, but I do believe over time that they will realize, who you are and that your intentions are good, and time kind of tells. And so I think you're spot on. Like, just let me go out and be me. Let me do what I do to the best of my ability. And I think it does kind of all unfold appropriately.
So I guess speaking of it unfolding and growing in knowledge and being better salespeople, can you tell me just why are USA made capacitors considered superior in the market?
That transition, you better get out of here. You better get out of here with that transition. Are you drinking Seagram 7? What was it? Seagram's? No, not Seagram's.
No fuzzy navels here this evening.
No, okay. But on a serious note, this is one of those things where USA capacitors, okay. So, I mean, I hear this in the branches, but why are AMRAD USA capacitors fantastic? I think the two biggest things that people think about when they think about our capacitors is USA made, right here, Palm Coast, Florida, and with the 5-year warranty.
Yep.
And just those two aspects alone, I mean, that's how people often will sell a capacitor when someone comes in. Oh, do you want it made, do you want this? Or do you want 5-year made in the USA? So I think that's the biggest thing. But I mean, on top of that, I mean, it's the quality, right? So you have the dielectric fluid inside. So it's a nice, thick fluid. We think of like a capacitor that doesn't have that. It's kind of oily. So it just helps to reduce the heat, keeps the quality of the capacitor. And, you might pay a couple extra bucks for it, but you're paying for something, you're getting something in return.
Absolutely. Now, I'm trying to, what was it? Is it polypropylene? What was it?
The dielectric?
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Fluid.
There it is.
I mean, you know what? So you're talking about the non-PCB dielectric fluid.
Correct.
It's thick. You've never seen our, have you ever seen that little glass plate? Yeah.
Yep, got your ball bearings in it and everything else.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give people the image.
Yeah, it's like a thick, what is it like? I'm trying to think of what the consistency of it is.
It always reminds me, when I see it, it always looks like a jar full of castor oil.
Yeah. Well, people always say, is that moonshine? That's what
You're like, take a swig and find out.
Yeah, but it has a consistency that's, I guess, yeah, that's probably good. Castor oil, I don't know. I think it's probably thicker than that.
And I was going to say, I guess it shouldn't be moonshine, because doesn't Dickie have like a massive wine cellar?
I don't know. Does he?
I swear somebody I thought in the global office somewhere
I hope he does.
had a very solid wine or a very solid vino collection.
I feel like he would, and he should, but I haven't seen it.
I think you need to ask Mark.
I don't think he has any wine coolers for you though. So
no wine coolers for me. No strawberry daiquiri either. Gosh. All right, so AMRAD capacitors, US made, 5-year warranty. But you guys are really, really known, especially on social media, for the turbos.
The turbos.
So what advantages do turbo capacitors offer systems? When should they be used, or when can they be used, and why?
Yeah, I mean, they can be used anytime. That's the beauty of it. So the turbos are universal. So it's meant to be, universal capacitors. So you can eliminate having to carry multiple sizes of different, other branded capacitors by having one of the turbos on your truck. So for example, we have the Turbo 200X, we have the Turbo 200, we have the Turbo Mini, and the Turbo Mini Oval. The Mini and the Mini Oval go up to 15 microfarad. Then the 200 goes up to 67.5 microfarad, and then the 200X goes up to 97.5 microfarad. So one of the kind of way that people look at the turbo is like, have one on a truck, you're never going to be in a bind, right? Because you're going to always have an answer. You're never going to go without.
Correct.
And those all do have the 5-year warranty, made in the USA, same exact thing. So there's that one on a truck type mentality, but then there's also, there's contractors out here that's all they carry is the turbos. So they're not, it eliminates the need to carry all the inventory on the individual, the single or dual value capacitors. So it's just a simplified kind of answer, I guess. So when should they use them? I mean, whenever you want a quality capacitor. And, I know that sounds very salesy, but I mean,
we are salespeople.
Yeah, but you'll hear it. And the thing is, if you go out there in the field and you talk to contractors, people that have installed them or taken one out, they'll tell you how long it's been in there, how long it's lasted, right? I mean, if you want something to maintain quality, you don't want it to be, popping. You're hearing all these capacitors popping and the heat. You want it to last longer than 1 year. A turbo is an answer.
Well, and I think, that comes down to, and that's something that I've seen for years, is when you're dealing with contractor, you have to understand his truck stock mentality.
Yeah.
So,
and that's when you guys those questions. Oh, go ahead.
Yep. So, there's people that, like you said, that turbo is all they're going to keep, and they do that because, yes, you're going to spend a bit more money on turbos than you are, a regular 45.5. But what you're forgetting is how much money did you spend on the 25.3 through the 60 at 5 or 10 or whatever? 100%. How much was that?
That's right.
And how many of those do you use a year?
That's
one or two of this one or two of that one or two of that one. So that if you actually sit and calculate what that cost is, you can drill down really quick how having 4 different capacitors that can cover all of this same shelf space makes a lot more sense.
Yep, and you get it though.
And
that's
as
exactly what it is.
And especially now, as we're getting into, now we're going to have multiple refrigerants in the market. I mean, we already have multiple refrigerants in the market, but we're going to have it on a whole different scale here within another 4 or 5 months, which means there's that much more other stuff on your truck. So being able to simplify the space savings with...
Look at you are in sales. I didn't even think about that part of it.
Mark talks a good game. I got to follow.
But but you're right. But you know what? I think you said it really well, is that, and again, like I said, I'm learning, you're going to learn how people look at business, how their truck stock, all those things. If they really took inventory and did that math and saw, what their kind of bottom line was and what they really were spending, that's what you have to do. And when you do that, then you can make a real true comparison. If you're just going to look at the cost, the face value of a turbo, no, of course it's gonna be more expensive, right? But you have to look at your business as a business, frankly. So
no, you do. And sorry, the puppy dog is squeaking the squeaky toy under my feet.
Oh, I didn't hear.
But like you said, if you really look at it and you drill it down and you look at the numbers, it makes so much more sense. And how many times was I the contractor out there and I was like, shit, I don't have this on the truck. It's a 30-minute, it's an hour round trip to go get the capacitor I need.
Yeah.
How much money did you just spend on gas, sir? You just spent more than what that turbo cost you. You just could have bought 2 turbos. And in that hour, you could have already been to your next call. And they forget that too.
That's right. And it's that mentality. And again, and you have to be sensitive to that. And I am, right? I understand that everybody is coming from a different place. We're all trying to, out here trying to make a living. And so I'm very sensitive to that. But I do in a polite way try to bring that to their attention, because it's true. And if you get the value of it, you get the value of it. And I think once you do, or once you're out in the field and you get, saved by a turbo by having one in your truck, you're like, man, I get it, so we're not going to convince everybody, but I think if you really look at it and do the math and look at it, like you said, what is the time you're spending? It's a great value. It really is.
No, and I completely agree. Now, the other cool thing is that AMRAD doesn't just make capacitors and the cool turbos, but they've also started making a lot of other different components, actually, let me back up real quick. Also, don't forget the CPT terminal on the old turbo, the compressor protection terminal. No one else has that either. So on top of that, I had a question on here to ask her about reliability and longevity, but one nice advantage is having that CPT terminal for adding reliability to a system that's already existing in the field. So
that's right. If you're using it with a hard start, use the CPT, the compressor protection terminal. So it's meant to do just that, protect the compressor. Yep. So if the relay fails, it's going to cut the power so it doesn't continue to try to turn it over. And it is. It's a global exclusive. So it definitely. Again, you go back, like you said, to that innovation and looking out really for the contractor, for the customer, and maintaining the quality of the product. So they're kind of thinking ahead, and I think that's where that innovation is.
And one other product, which I'll let you go into some of the other ones too, but one of the ones talking about thinking about the contractor ahead of time is one of the gripes that I've heard in the past with an AMRAD or with a turbo is that, well, it doesn't fit where the other capacitor did. So what did AMRAD go do?
Yeah, so we came up with this with our universal capacitor mount. So this is designed to fit, of course, all the turbos. Of course, we want you to use it with all of our capacitors, but it is universal. You can use it with any capacitor. So it fits all sizes, shapes, and it's, listen, again, I'm learning. Some people are old school. They're like, just throw it in there or, use a zip tie. But it does add a little, element of, it looks good, and I don't, what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with doing a job that looks good.
There really isn't.
How many of these guys that listen to this show right now have put their picture on Instagram because they're proud of how good their work looks?
That's right. You know what? That's right.
So it's do a good job. Do a good job. Do a good job. There's nothing wrong with doing your job right. You can do it the right way just as fast as you can do it the wrong way.
Yeah, and we get it. We're creatures of habit. So listen, I get it. But no, I appreciate you bringing that one up. That is definitely one of our newer products, and it is designed specifically, like I said, for the turbos in mind, but it is universal in that it will fit all sizes and shapes. So it's a good investment. So
we're going to move on to one of my other products that you guys have that I like and that you rep is also Dytech.
Yes.
So Dytech is, most of what I know is, surge protection and voltage monitoring. So why is surge protection critical in modern HVAC systems, especially with the rise of inverter-driven equipment such as the Bosch equipment that I sell every single day?
Yeah, so I actually got to look. The Bosch unit was one that I was looking at today when I was out at the store. And the inverter system. So you're looking at the board. If something, you have a warranty on this unit. Something goes bad, okay, we have a warranty, we'll cover whatever's on the board. But let's say, case in point, today, we had a storm. If lightning would hit or if there be any kind of surge in power, that surge protector is going to protect the unit. If that surge protector wasn't there and something fails outside of that unit, my understanding is it's not going to be covered under the warranty, because
No.
it's not, it's not one of the parts, one of the actual unit parts. So to me, and this is one of the things that I'm learning. I think, maybe you can say it's my new eyes, my naive eyes, but to me, surge protection seems like the biggest opportunity for especially new installs. Those Bosch units. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer.
And it's for what it costs, for what it truly protects. It's a no-brainer. Build it into the price, fellas. Build it in the price.
And that's not just me being salesy, Rhydon. I mean, again, I go out and I speak to the contractors. I speak to the people at the counter. I speak to the branch managers. And like, tell me if I'm right or wrong. Am I naive to think this? And they're like, no. Like it makes sense. And especially again with the inverter systems coming out more and more. I mean, it's critical. And we know if something happens and there's not a surge protector on it, unit goes bad, the cost to replace the board, instead of throwing on, maybe $50, whatever, $100 for a surge protector, it just doesn't make sense to skip it.
No, it doesn't compare, because, we act like inverters are a new technology. They're not. Mini splits have been inverters for 3 or 4 decades now. But, how many of you out there have had the fun of trying to heat sink a new mini split board back in? It sucks. You can spend 50, 60, 70 bucks depending on what it is, and you don't have to do that. The surge protector is gonna take the hit first. And a lot of times, and homeowners most of the time don't read this. Contractors and distributors, we read this, but it doesn't always help. But if you actually go and read the warranties of a lot of systems, the bulk of them will say they do not cover acts of God.
That's right.
A lightning strike is, quote unquote, in not even going biblical terms, it is a business vernacular, or what's the right term? It's a legal documentarian term for something that's out of control of the contractor or even the homeowner.
That's right.
And most most warranties don't cover it. Now, how many times has a capacitor popped and I've replaced it under warranty? I can't tell you. Right. Honestly, couldn't tell you. But it's one of those things. Most time it just comes down to you have to do the right thing for the homeowner. But if we actually all played by the warranty rules, so many more people would be pissed off. It's insane.
Yeah.
You can prevent that a lot easier putting surge protection on your equipment.
You really can. And I think, again, I try to, whenever I'm talking to people about surge protection, I say, okay, here I am as a salesperson, but then here I am as a homeowner, right? Present it. I mean, it's the right thing to do. Not to say like what's right and wrong, but it really is. I mean, you're protecting the customer, you're protecting, yourself in some ways, because you don't know how, you don't know how what situation may arise, but I just think it's a no-brainer. It's something I've learned. It's probably my favorite thing to support, because I think it just makes complete sense. And I do see more and more of it out in the field. Of course, I love for them to purchase the Dytech product. It is a great product, but just using surge protection in general and seeing it more and more, it makes me happy, because I think it's definitely the way to go.
No, it is. And let's say you build it, say you're a contractor and you build this into your price. When you go to the homeowner and you're pitching, because you're pitching, whether you want to say you're pitching or not, 100%. You're pitching them a system. Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, we make sure that every system we install comes with this. You don't give it as an option to add it. Say it comes with this.
Yep.
Those little things set you apart from most of your competition. Am I going to tell you that everyone else that goes out to give a quote's not going to already have surge protection on it? Nope. Because guys continue to start changing that trend, and it's gradually been happening over the last several years. But if you tell the homeowner you already include something that helps save them money in the long run, or helps protect their equipment that someone else isn't doing, that right there is a feather in your hat to help you get towards the win.
It's a win, yeah. I agree. And the Dytech, excuse me, surge protector that we actually sell, it's unique in the sense that, or I say one of the highlights of it is that it will take a surge, it'll take the surge, it'll protect the unit, and it'll actually automatically reset itself. So that's also saving, the technician, the customer, homeowner, time for someone to come out and
saving the call
push
back
a reset button. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's, again, obviously we sell the product, but it's a fantastic product. Even if you're not using it, it's the right way to go, I think. And so I hope we see more and more of that happening, especially like you said, new installs. It doesn't make sense not to do it. And I like what you said. I think that you are selling, whether you believe it or not, and be empowered to sell the surge protector. I think, don't be afraid of it.
No, completely. And I think, the other real cool thing that Dytech has is a surge protector with a voltage range monitor together. There's other brands that have something similar, but the nice thing about it is especially in North Carolina, there are a lot of areas that are growing very, very rapidly right now. Raleigh, for example, is one of them. There's a ton of new home construction going on in Raleigh, which continues to see their power grid have all kinds of different voltage spikes, different voltage levels, and a lot of these, especially again, these newer inverter systems, and trust me, regular single stage equipment, they've all got a max voltage they deal with too. But you can see voltage can be much more sensitive to inverter products. So, there's a lot of times where if it spikes and there's no protection on it, that's going to blow something up too. So being able to have something that as soon as it sees voltage go over a certain range, it can cut off. Yeah, it can alert it can kill your power, and it can protect your system in another way.
Yeah, it's definitely something where I'm, again, being out in the field and being educated by people that are doing the work like yourself. It's, they're like, yeah, there's dirty power out here. I hear that word, dirty power. I hear that a lot. But yeah, it's a way to, someone said it well to me. And again, I love these like straightforward conversations I have with some contractors. He said, I went out and something was up with this unit, and I was thinking, yeah, I'll give you a new unit if you want a new unit, but he couldn't say for sure what was going on. And if he would have had the voltage monitoring device on there, he would have been able to say, okay, yeah, it's a power issue, or it's at the unit. So there's so much value in it, and I think that's taken even a step farther. But I don't know. I hope to see more and more of it. And the Dytech product is great. That voltage monitoring device you're talking about, it's a plug and play. So it makes it very easy for whoever's installing it to get it up and running. It does have some status lights that will tell you, what is occurring if there is kind of an over or under a voltage. The homeowner could actually take a snippet of a little video, couple second video, and send it even to you. So it's giving that technician some diagnostic information before they even would come out to service it. So there's, it can be so useful. And I think people, hearing it from you and for people that actually are out in the field, it makes me understand it and appreciate it more.
Well, and it's also, it's not a bulky addition to, the outside equipment, because it's the smallest one, in fact. Yeah, the Dytech one is the smallest one right now that we've seen, with the competition. It's a nice small unit, and it's least expensive as well. So it's a great look. And that's not to say that because it's not the most expensive, it's not valuable.
100%.
It's great product. Price is not always everything in this industry, whether people want to say it is.
Amen.
So, and like you said, with it being a smaller product, we live in a world of, I guess, an ever-growing world of, it must be aesthetically pleasing or it's not going on my house.
Yeah, and it is sexy
looking. Yeah, it's not. I have. It's not back in the day when nobody cared what color the box was that cooled their house. Everything's got to look flashy.
Isn't that funny though?
Like it fits. It's funny.
It's funny, but I kind of love it because I hope that it kind of, again, do a good job. Post a video on Instagram. We all want to see it. Show it off.
Exactly.
Show off your work. But it is a good looking device too, though. It fits in small spaces. It does have the NEMA 4X weatherproof enclosing, so it'll look sexy. It's Instagram worthy, I think.
So another product you guys have that is sexy and Instagram worthy is definitely the hung right mounting system. I've got several contractors that are working on getting me to bring some in here, so I'm having those discussions. But you know, we see so many different people that use Unistrut and all these different things to, you know, I guess flash up their install. But hung right can do a lot of that with
I heard a squeak.
Sorry. I got a puppy dog attacking my feet at the moment with a squeaky toy. But you know, it's something you can add in on install, whether it be new install, retrofit, anything like that, to really make the install more service friendly in the long run. And then also, you know, it makes it easier to level the equipment, because that's another thing we see. There's how many times have you been in the attic and you put the level on this and you think it's level, but you don't realize that said attic is not level at all. So you can truly level up your system, make sure if it's a furnace, you can pitch it the right direction. You know, it's all in the box. It's right there. You can put it in 10, 15 minutes, set your drain pan on it, and get to work.
Yeah.
It saves so much time having to do the traditional, let's go buy 10 2x4s and 2 sheets of OSB and build a platform.
Yeah, and it's you know, I think what I've found is that people that have used it and tried it, they instantly get it. They see the value in it. They're like, I'm never not going to use one. So I think that's the key. Is like, just try it, right? But I think it goes back to what we were talking about too. How much time are you spending, right? If you're just using rods, bolts, but how much time is that taking you? What is the quality of your work? But yeah, and also, I mean, it was designed by a contractor, so you know, it was designed with contractor installs in mind. So one of the things too is a lot of people are familiar with the product, but they're not all familiar that it comes in 4 different sizes. So like the 66 inch is the most common, but I've seen a lot more people using the 33 inch and the 78 inch as well. So, and there's also a 56 inch, but that's probably the least used size to my knowledge. But just kind of keep it in mind. And get those in there, Rhydon. Come on, man.
Yeah. Well, and it depends on application. I would say, you know, that primary 66, I would say probably in most cases is 60% of your applications, to be fair.
I think that's fair.
You know,
yeah, I think that's
somewhere
fair
around there. Now, depending on the customer base of your distributor or you as a salesperson, you know, guys that are doing a lot of commercial stuff and maybe they're constantly just 5-ton, big stuff.
Yep.
That larger one's a great one. But places that are doing a lot of just standard residential, it might not be the right size.
Yeah. 78 is going to be definitely for larger jobs. The 33, I hear about them putting, you know, dehumidifiers, things like that. That's
that's
a small space. Yeah. So, I mean, and again, I think for me, selling the product, talking about the product is whenever I can get those stories from the people that are actually doing it. I don't know. I just think that is meaningful. So I try to get stories, and I try to get more information whenever I'm out there, just to better understand, frankly, who's using it, and also, you know, what are the objections, because you always want to hear objections from people as well.
No, I completely agree with that. And talking about objections, I'll kind of lead me into, you know, starting to wrap the show. But one thing I really wanted to talk about is, especially yours, but also what I've seen to be Global's, you know, approach to counter days.
Yeah.
I will say in the 15 years that I've been a part of counter days in this industry, I have never gotten the kind of feedback about the people they spoke to at a counter day the way I got it from you and Elaine. I've never seen that in 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Never seen it. So, you know, if this is me giving away the secret sauce of Global, we'll cut this out of the show. But I kind of, I kind of want to just talk a little bit about, you know, how do you plan, you know, to really execute counter days with distributors to make it, you know, not only successful for you, but the things that you do to help it be successful for, you know, the distributor team that you're helping host.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier. Number one, I mean, I think you have to build. Some people are like, yeah, come and do a counter day, no big deal. Come on, yeah, come anytime. And some people, I think you have to build a little bit of rapport with them first, right? They want to see what you're all about. And then once they do, I think it's just maintaining that integrity and how you approach customers, putting care. I mean, the same thing we talked about is like that heart and putting the care into it and listening to people. And I mean, as soon as someone comes up to the table, we're there for them, right? So just being attuned and selling what we can, man. Sling that HVAC.
Slinging some HVAC.
Yeah, but I think it's just, I think it's that, just we're here for the common goal, and I think if you put that honesty into it, I think it comes through.
Well, and me asking that question, obviously I'm a distributor. You spent some time, with me hosting an event earlier this year, but another, main point of this show is there's enough business out there for everybody. I think us as an industry need to be better about finding ways to be more collaborative than competitive in certain aspects. We're all going to be competitive because we all want to win. But I think there's moments where if we all just were even a few % more collaborative with one another, even between rivals, our industry would blossom so much more than it already can. There's so much more potential there. So, we talked about it being personal, but, what are there any other things that you really think about these events that really help in customer growth and retention, particularly in our industry?
I think it's listening, right? And when we're in sales, sometimes we want to not listen. People are saying something, but we just want to throw that sales pitch out there, right? And that's kind of who we are, right? We're in sales. That's our job, like we said. But I think some people just want to be heard, right? And I think if you really listen to people, hear them out, maybe there's some objections, and then follow up, offer them, a potential product or something that you really think would help them because you listen to them. I like to believe that goes a long way. Keep it on the up and up, have integrity. There's no need to, badmouth, like you said, other people. Not that, we're doing this, but everybody's good at something. And I do think we can all work together, but I think it's really just making people feel heard. I really
Completely.
do.
No, I completely agree with that. So talking about people being heard, a segment that I've started really liking to close the show on is what I'm calling Give More in 2024.
All right.
So what advice would you give to someone considering a career in the HVAC industry, especially in sales or account management, now that you've started to make this transition?
Wow. I think, I think that there's some really, I'm from Pittsburgh, so it's very blue collar, some, hard work. I've seen my grandpa, my uncle, my dad just get in the dirt and, work hard. And so I really respect that. But I think somebody coming in and, like we said earlier, there's different personalities and that you're going to meet along the way. I would say, never, this is any industry, but in anything you do, try not to judge people by, judge a book by its cover or be intimidated by something you don't know, because I will say I have been met with, just amazing and warm people. Everybody's been so inviting, so helpful. And I think if you go into a situation with any other mentality, that I don't know that you'll be met with the same, situation or same people, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but just be open-minded, man, and be ready to learn a lot and, learn 7 different things that mean the same thing.
Absolutely. Well, and
about you?
Well, hey, this is you. This is all you right here.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. What advice would I give someone considering a career in HVAC.
Yeah, I mean, because
it doesn't. I think the
or
biggest.
how would you
thing for me
change it? How would you what would you do differently if you knowing what you know now, or would there be something?
There's some things I might change, but I don't know how much I would change. I think whether you have any career background at HVAC or you have absolutely zero, this is a great industry to be in, because the majority of people are good, true, honest people.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great group of people to be a part of, and there's so much opportunity. What do you love to do? Well, you like to do marketing. Well, guess what? HVAC needs marketing. You like to do HR. Well, guess what? We all need HR people. You like to, be a hospitality person. Well, guess what? Every single distributor or every single contractor that's big enough, they host events and they do things for their employees and their customers. So you can be part of this industry without even touching a capacitor or talking about a part. I think that's one of the beauties of this industry, is it is huge, but they don't teach kids in school that you can do those different things. That was when I went to Chicago in October last year for Prosser. One of the things that we talked about was, we just looked at these different kids in the room, because there's 90-ish, I think around 90 or so kids in the HVAC program between freshman through senior. And, eventually when you're talking about HVAC, the heads start to bob and you're going to lose the room. So, you look at these people and they're like, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And that's why I use marketing. This girl said she wanted to get into marketing because she liked designing, flyers and different things. I was like, well, guess what? We need those people. And I said, if you go through this trade program in your school and you learn the basics of what HVAC is, you can apply that in so many different ways across this industry. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. But the problem is, all of these schools and these trade schools, and we need the trade schools. This is not me trying to knock on them. Sure. But there's so many of them that the only thing they teach these kids they can do is go turn a wrench, in a 150-degree attic, for 30 years to hopefully, retire with a 401k if you work for the same company for 30 years. That's not this industry anymore. It's not.
Yeah. No,
it's well completely said. Different. And if we don't start educating, the teens and tweens and everything that are coming up right now, we're not going to have enough employees for this industry at all. Because guess what? HVAC ain't going nowhere.
I was just going to say, you took the words right out of my mouth, because you know what? It's not. You literally took the words right out of my mouth, because it's not going anywhere. But I do love what you said, it's a good way to look at it. And it's also, I'm sure you've experienced it and you've seen it. There's also where you can start in one position and work your way up and around and all Absolutely. Different, and that's kind of a beautiful thing too. But you're right. That's definitely a good message. That is a good message.
So, any last best pieces of advice for, personal, professional growth?
Man, I just gotta figure out what all these parts and pieces are,
So Jessica's tip to grow professionally is learn your product.
Yes.
Good call.
Yes.
And
learn your product, learn the competition's product. Yeah.
I'll tell you right there, that is one of the biggest ones that a lot of people don't do, is they don't go and educate themselves enough on their competitor's product. And they go to the table and they lay out this great pitch for what they have, but then they can't defend a single question from the rival brand or why you would do this over the other one. Yeah. And you know what? And there's sometimes you don't have an answer.
Yeah.
But if you're honest about it, that also helps you win.
100%. And I was just going to say that I've definitely been in that position, and you have to just say, you know what, I'm not sure, but damn it, I'm going to go find out. And, use it as a learning opportunity.
And it's also, another great thing, and this is another Cajun Joeism, is he always talked about, learn how to use your appendix and your index, because that'll tell you where it is in the book. If you can figure out where it is in the book, you can go learn about it. You don't have to memorize where it is. So there's a lot of cases where you might get asked a question and you don't know the answer to. Be like, hey man, I don't know, but I can tell you where to go find it.
Yeah.
Or I might not have what you need to solve the problem, but I can tell you who does. Be like, hey, I don't want to lose a sale, but more importantly, I don't want your business to lose a sale. Call this guy.
Absolutely. And that goes back to that integrity that we talked about too, right? I mean, I'll be the first person to say, guys, I don't know, but let me ask. Yeah, and use it as a learning opportunity. I agree. I think there's always something to be learned. I mean, that is the message. That's the message I receive every day. And that's my goal. My goal is just to learn as much as I can. So hopefully next time we speak, I'll know even more.
Oh, exactly. So Jess, thank you seriously so much for taking time to talk with me, talk with the trade crew. If you're not following HVAC online, make sure to go find us on TikTok and Instagram at hvac.rnd, as well as on LinkedIn, Trade Hounds, and Facebook as the HVAC R&D podcast. But then also make sure you follow Jesseca and Global the Source. Do you want to plug your handles on here for everybody?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what am I? I'm Jesseca. I'm HVAC Jesseca. What am I? Oh my gosh, Rhydon. Jeez, oh man.
What is your handle?
I'm HVAC_Jesseca. It's Jesseca. So HVAC_Jesseca. Jesseca.
Yep. And then
please follow me.
Yes. And then what is Global's exact one? Is it at Global the Source, I believe?
Yep.
Or is it Trust G?
Nope. Global is just Global the Source. GLOBAL the Source. Global the Source. Yeah, definitely follow us. Hopefully we'll have some pretty things on there to brag about, right, Rhydon? That's what we like
Absolutely.
to do.
Absolutely. So go find her and Global on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Also, don't forget when you visit the HVAC R&D Vendor Hub, if you're looking to get trained up here in the Carolinas, you can go request training and maybe Miss Jess will come and see you. You never know. But yeah, thank you for listening to the show, everybody. Make sure to follow us, like and rate the show on your favorite platform, whatever it may be. Leave me a review. Share the show with your trade crew. Don't forget to check out the website and swag shop. If you want to work with me, you know how to do that. So have a great week, trade crew. I'll catch you soon. And Jess, you want to take us out?
All right, guys. Have a great week. HVAC out there.